Hey guys, Mr. George was here. Today we're looking at Ultimate Esimo, specifically crafted for Onslaught mode. Unfortunately, I did try this everywhere else, and it's not very good anywhere other than Onslaught mode. But if you want to have fun with Ultimate Esimo in Onslaught mode and do insane amount of damage, this might just be the build for you. If you do find anything in this video useful, feel free to like the video, subscribe to the channel, or drop a comment below to help support channel growth, and let's get into it. First, I want to talk about Explosion Maestro. This is one of the three really important parts of the build that you're going to have for this to work. This is one of his ultimate mods that turns him into a crit-based descendant. Its typical use is for bossing, but that's not how we're going to use it. All right, so first, the changes that you need to be aware of. Your first ability, your bombs will no longer stick to surfaces, only enemies. If it hits a surface, it just explodes. We will be making use of this. Your 2 works basically the same. The big difference here is that it gives your grand finale, which is one of your new abilities, a cooldown if you have enough grenades attached. Your 3 is completely different. Now it will give you a buff and your team. This will increase your defense and your movement speed. This goes for you and your team. The second thing that this does is it completely refills your 1 ability, which is important. Your 4th ability, which is the grand finale, is really important for the build too. Your 4 becomes like a belly flop animation that does a big AoE explosion. The other important factor here is if you hit an enemy with a crit with this, it actually resets the cooldown on your grand finale, your 4. That will also give you a charge back of your 3, which you can then use to get a charge back of your 2. If you can see how that works together, it's quite beautiful. And then finally, his passive ability. This is where you get your crit rate. It gives him an extra 20%, making him a base 20% crit hit descendant. And then it drops bombs when you get hit. We don't make use of this too much outside of the crit rate. All right, so a quick demo of Explosion Maestro itself before we get into what we're going to do here. First, if you ADS or you're holding a melee weapon and you use your 1 ability, you will actually shoot all your stacks at once. You can use this to quickly add stats onto a boss. We're not going to worry about this, but I just want to make sure you understand fundamentally how that works. Secondly, if you hit an enemy with your 4 ability, while they have bombs on them, it'll double the count. So you could use this to, oh, I missed, but you could use this to stack way up to 50, and then you just use your 2 to detonate it. Okay, we will make use of this to a degree against the tyrants and the colossi, but you won't be using that too much throughout your onslaught runs. And then finally, your 3rd ability gives you your 4 bombs back, so you can keep spamming them and then using more of your belly flop to get more stacks of that back if you needed it. The next super important thing that we're going to need to talk about is explosive aesthetics. This is a trigger mod. It works with Esimo wonderfully. It's kind of his trigger mod. How this is going to work is you're going to use your 1 ability. It's your explosive projectile. It'll give you stacks. Okay. Once you get enough inspiration stacks, which is 9, but you only it takes 3 deployments of your 1 to get 9. When you use your clash ability, which is going to be our 4, it causes a giant explosion. On your trigger mod specifically, you do not care about the first 2 colors. For this build specifically, we don't care what these are. We only care about the last one. You want it gold. This is the finale. When you have 9 stacks, you get this benefit instead. It is a skill power times whatever roll you get. Mine's 23,000, almost max, which is great. And max shield does give you bonus damage up to 30,000 shields, and we'll get to that here in a little bit. All right, to show you what this looks like with explosive aesthetics, if you fire 3 projectiles, you'll get your 9 stacks, and then you use your 4, big explosion, and that secondary explosion is the big damage that we care about. Not the explosion of your 4, but that secondary explosion. That's what we're chasing. That's what's going to be doing our damage. Something to keep in mind, if you use a melee weapon and you use your 1 and it shoots all your stacks, it only counts as 1 launch, so you're only getting 3 charges towards your trigger mod. You'd have to trigger this 3 times back and forth, and that's why we're not going to be using melee weapons for the primary use. Rather, we're going to use our primary weapon so we can spam this faster. All right, so if we put all this information together, this is what it will look like. You're going to shoot 3 bombs, and then you're going to use your 4, and then while you're in the air, recharge your bombs with your 3. And then you just repeat. The third piece to the build is going to be his Ancestor mod. For this specifically, you need crit rate. Crit rate is a must. It will not work if you do not have enough crit rate. I did a run without any Ancestor mod, running skill Insight in this slot instead, and it worked, but my final damage was only about 10 billion versus 50 billion, so crit rate is insanely important to maximize our damage here. You also will want crit damage because that's going to be our primary source of damage. And if you can get a third option, you want max shield, max HP, or fusion ratio. In that order of priority is what I would go after. Those are all damage buffs in their own way, and we will talk about that in a second. All right, the mods themselves, there's going to be a little bit of confusion here, and I got to explain it, so I'm going to knock the easy stuff out of the way. Nimble Fingers, MP conversion for cooldown, focus on fire, focus on fusion for both damage and cooldown, and then skill concentration for skill critical hit damage. All right, the next important thing I want to go over here is increased HP, overwhelming shield, and increased shield. If you don't understand how overwhelming shield works, it makes your max HP 1, but converts 27-ish% of your max HP into shields. This Explosion Maestro does not gain anything from max shields. This version of Esimo does not gain any damage scaling from max shields, but Finale on Explosive Aesthetics does. It gets all the way up to 270% bonus damage multiplier based off of your shield. Perfect world, we want 30,000 shield. This build does not shoot for that specifically, and I'm still doing 50 billion damage. There are some benefits to running it how we're running it, and I'll get to those benefits when we get there, but for now, that is why we're running those 3 mods. And a special shout out to Skill Expansion. This is a range mod. You actually don't have to run this if you don't want to. You could slot something else here, even if it's front lines or more health. The reason you don't need it is your 4 ability is not your primary source of damage. I've ran some with or without. I prefer with, but this range is a stagnant number that does not change. Your actual damage is coming from this. Does not matter what your range on this is. I just felt like hitting and resetting and using it was a bit easier with skill expansion, so I would recommend skill expansion, but that is totally up to you guys. All right, looking at the reactor, we have a fire fusion reactor with skill cooldown and fusion skill power boost ratio. You do not have to run the fusion skill power boost ratio. I just have a lot of crit, and it's just a bit overkill on my crit damage, so I would boost ratio instead, but that is completely up to you guys. Component set, I went with 4-piece hunter. This will give you a little bit more cooldown and also will help you with your MP recovery. If you're not familiar with the 4-piece set, it does boost your MP recovery, and when your MP is below, when your MP is below 50%, getting hit will recover it by 30%. You're going to be doing so much skill spam. I could not effectively use this build start to finish without the hunter set, the 4-piece. If you are looking for something else, this should boost your damage numbers. You can run Firebrand. Whichever one that you go with, you're going to want to run it for max shields because that's what we're building into for more damage. The issue with Firebrand that I kept running into is I kept running out of MP. I just couldn't keep my MP up. It was not usable for me because of that. But if you're able to maintain your MP, Firebrand is what you want. All right, looking at the weapons, the modules do not matter. We're not going to be shooting them. You just need these in your hand. So first, Blue Beetle. The reason for Blue Beetle is because if you use a fusion ability, it gives you 115% more crit rate. So for Esimo, it's like an extra 22%. So if your Ancestor mod isn't big enough, this can help you push you over the edge. The 2 important things to note is on my cores, I do have a Blue Beetle with sprint speed and sprint speed just for faster movement. Next, if you probably want a melee weapon, the rolls on it do not matter. This is just for bossing on the Colossi and the Tyrants if you want to focus on them with your team to get your bombs out faster. And then if you have enough crit rate and you don't need Blue Beetle, I went with Peacemaker with 3 movement speeds on just to run really, really fast. Completely up to you guys. All right, so for the arcade board, I'm going to be honest, this board is awful. Trying to find a way to get the max shield, the extra skill power, the mutant cell. I just couldn't find a way to do it all. This is what I opted with. This is what I've been using. This has been giving me the 50 billion damage. I haven't been too concerned about it because it works. If there's a better configuration, please comment down below. Let me know what you figured out. First, skill power all the way down to the shield, a little bit more survivability and damage. Then I came up and around, grabbed all this crit damage, skill cooldown, the skill power, and then the last little bit of skill power. All right, Inversion Reinforcement. I'm going to start off the most important thing that you can put on for this build. Arche Synergy. What this will do is it lets you pick up HP orbs as health for your shields. Without this, you have no way to recover your shields in combat. This is insanely important unless you have a healer or you pick up an Onslaught card that lets you recover HP or shields. Without this, you will be dying a lot. This is very important to have. Next, shield particle reconfiguration. This will give you more max shield. Based off your defense, we don't have a whole lot of defense, but it does have that defense buff. If you put them on your opponents like you're supposed to, and I should have, this will give you a little bit more than what I'm even getting. And then finally, Rage Burst. This is for Ultimate Esimo. It gives you more max shield and more crit damage at max stat every time you get hit. It's really good. It's extra. It's just free damage across the board. All right, so some Onslaught information that you should have when picking your cards with this build specifically. Things that you want are anything that give you skill power. So the blessing of the rolling, the orbs with grappling is really good. The flat skill power boost, or even the flat crit damage boost. The other thing to look out for, only one of these, either or, is the max shield increase or the max HP increase. Either one of those will push you really close to that 30,000 shield mark to maximize your damage. So that turns that into a damage card should it be available. A couple things I want to talk about too is, one, you are kind of squishy with this build, even with the 17,000 plus shields all the way up to 30,000. Shield recovery is not a really easy thing to pull off, so you got to keep moving. The first 2 rounds are probably going to be your worst 2 rounds of the entire run. The more cards you get, the more damage you do by far. By round 3, everything is just getting overkilled, which leads to my next point. Even though you're going to be doing anywhere from 20, 30, 40, all the way up to 100 billion damage, it's a lot of it's overkill. So you're going to be doing a lot of damage to the bosses. Like, you're going to be taking chunks of their health out, but the build itself is kind of slow for that. It's really good for just taking out a large, massive enemies that are overwhelming you at once. And it's fun. This is one of the most fun builds I've ever had the joy of playing in TFD, and I hope you guys do too. With all that being said, I hope you guys liked the video. If you found anything useful today, consider subscribing, comment down below, liking the video, help the channel grow some more. I'll get back to you guys with another Onslaught build, hopefully soon. Until then, I hope everybody has a great time.